Okay, folks, let's get started.
Summed it up 20 times, maybe. I can't recall anybody who was not doing it. I think maybe Desert Arms might have way back been involved in it, but I'm still driving this old car. So that my Volvo is 17 years old, and I bought it from him in 2010, so I've had it for 14 years. Still working quite nicely. It's a Volvo station wagon. Yeah, but it seems to just keep ticking over. I've not had any major problems except people knocking the mirrors off through accidents. You know, they clip the mirror off 3 times. Well, the first time, yeah. Like some more?
Yeah.
Sure, I love one. Thank you, buddy.
Good afternoon. This is good. Just about as many as were here have stayed for the meeting. It's for the coffee. All right. Oh, I'm calling it to order too. Okay, welcome everyone to our 2024 annual congregational meeting. I'd like to call it to order, and we need an election of the chairperson and secretary for the meeting.
Right. It's our custom to ask the current chair of council and the secretary of council to serve as chair and secretary of the annual meeting. So that being the case, I would like to nominate Dick Baldhorn as chair, and I'd ask for a seconder. Al, thank you very much. Are there any other nominations?
Don't all shout at once.
There being no other nominations, congratulations, Dick. You're the chair. And may we have a nomination of Phil Fay as secretary? Neil, thank you very much. Is there a seconder? Lynn Garner. Thank you very much. Are there any other nominations for the role of secretary? There not being any? Our chair and secretary. Reverend Jessica.
Let us pray. Gracious and loving God, we give you thanks for this time together and this community. Please bless us as we go into the work of this meeting. Please help to move through all of the conversation and through all the discerning and all the decision making. In the name of your Son, Jesus, we pray. Amen.
The first motion we need is a motion so that adherents can vote in this meeting. basically, somebody asked a motion that adherents be made corresponding members with voting privileges for the purposes of the annual congregational meeting. And obviously a seconder for the motion as well. All in favor? Approval of the agenda. The agenda, there are some copies up, sorry. There are some copies up here. If you want to have a phone in hand, it's supposed to come up on the screen. So, is it there?
The agenda's on the screen, yes.
The big screen there. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so people can see it sufficiently. I don't know if you can't see it in one go, but it'll move down. We basically need approval of the agenda, and we need a motion as always and a seconder. Ray Mack and Gloria Emanuel. All in favor? Good. The next item is the review and approval of the minutes of the 23 annual congregational meeting. I think those were out there. I think there's some here. Yeah. Is anybody who has read them want to move an acceptance of the minutes from last year's congregational meeting? David LaFranchise? Neil Johnson. All in favor? The next item is basically changes in the council committee structure. What's happened, we basically have got now kind of used to having more than one chair, kind of a rotating chairpersons. Last year we had 3 people. We sort of carved up the time accordingly. This year we have 2, myself and Cam Bowes. And what we basically do is I do the first 6 months of the year and he does the last 6 months. And it seems to work reasonably well. It means that the person who's not actually acting, not actually busy, can fill in for the other person when they're not around, and that happens from time to time. The current constitution states that the chairperson, vice chair, secretary, trustees, members of the FMP, lay rep should be elected by congregation, and this will normally be for a term of 3 years. I think on that basis we have to accept, as I recall, anybody resigning from trustees, and I don't think there is anybody, not that they're aware of.
Did you say that the treasurer of trustees is stepping down? Is he leaving the committee altogether? Okay, so we need to vote on that then. So can you want to talk with it?
Yeah. Sorry, can you,
do you want to speak to the
mic? Where's the roving mic? Yeah, maybe you could just take it there.
Yes, after the report was done, excuse me, I got a letter, a letter of resignation. So he'll stay from Dennis Cartwright. He'll stay until we find another treasurer.
Okay. He's announced his resignation, but he's not.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he can't just walk away until we get another treasurer.
He's still going to be working at it until you get a replacement.
That's correct.
He can't leave the group unless we say yes he can.
Well, we can try that, but that's not going to work.
I don't think we need that to line up that job in advance. So that's why he's still doing the job, but as soon as you get a new person, he will resign.
That's correct.
And then we'll have to accept his resignation down at that time. Yeah. Okay, maybe leave it that for now.
Do you want to accept it on the condition that he resigns once we find a new treasurer?
Well, we have to appoint the new person by a board meeting. So maybe at the same time we can accept his.
You have to appoint it. You have to elect it here at a congregation.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, at a congregational meeting. So but let's wait until you get somebody, and then we'll figure out how we go from there. So we might have to do a special meeting just to have, basically to accept the new person and accept Dennis's resignation, yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, thanks. Anyway, I think those are the only people that the annual meeting has to say yes and no to.
Well, no, everybody all board members have to be,
Sorry, yeah,
all board members have to be voted on by the congregation.
okay. I can, you'll have to talk to the people in the back.
Can you move the minutes up a bit? So we're at rotating,
Up.
we're at changes in the council.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Let's go through then, and then basically have accept the rotating chairpersons. Need a motion to approve that myself and Cam Bowes are the chairpersons for this year, this calendar year. Can I have a motion?
We should also ask for any nominations from the floor.
Yeah. And yeah. So Al Novacek, Neil Johnson. Is there any other nominations for chairpersons from the floor here? I don't see any. If we could have a vote on that, then that myself and Cam Bowes are the chairpersons for this calendar year. Okay. The secretary of the council and of this meeting is Phil Fay. I think he's now it's sort of hereditary. He'll not be able to ever get rid of it. So I know, but that's what you don't find around here. It's that COVID thing. Since COVID, the hands don't go up anymore. Could I have a motion to nominate Phil Fay as the secretary? We've got too many people. Yes, right. Evelyn and Willis Heb. All in favor? Good. Okay. Trustees, we'll leave to the next meeting. On finance and property, we're just noting that Al Novacek has resigned. We do not have to officially accept that, because that it's only the trustees need a motion to to leave the committee. But we'll be looking for a new Al Novacek. Though Al is still around, he's not going to be on the F&P committee for the coming year. And the final one are the regional reps, and these have been Phil Fay and Cam Bowes. Could I have a motion to move the fact that they will be regional reps, and also from anybody else who wants to serve as a regional rep to the United Church bodies? Motion for Phil Fay. Okay. Nancy over here, and let's see, Bill Griffiths. Yeah. All in favor? Okay, good. Accepted. Go through that. Yep. There's no presbytery anymore. That's what they are.
That should have said regional, yeah.
Yeah. There's no presbytery anymore, as I understand. A Board of Trustees report. The next item is Bill Griffiths, if he could. Sorry? Yes, we'll put that in there as well.
Could you please thank Al?
Is this the place to do
Yeah.
it? Is this the time?
Sorry, I can only have one conversation at a time here.
Before you do that, I need you to thank Al for his
Yeah.
service
Yeah.
and Nancy who stepped down as chair, rotating chair.
Yeah. Are you going to use the mic from down there? Yeah. Right here. It's coming to you. It's coming to you. Let's save you having to come up here. There's a limited space up here.
Okay,
Hold on a bit, just one sec, Bill. Would you please thank Al?
Yeah, of course. Al has done many jobs on the board of the church, and he continues to do many things for the church, but he won't have a formal position. He's still making the coffee. He's still keeping the guard in the front there, doing up the collection, helping out outside in the artwork, etc. So we very much thank Al for all his efforts, and don't leave. Keep working, nonetheless. have one more thing. Sorry, because partly because it's not on the list here, is that the council meeting that was held earlier this week, or last week, we decided that we need to, in order to be consistent with the rules of the Constitution, that we have to move our number for a quorum meeting from 7 to 5. This is because there are less groups in the church. And so we can't have, sort of fictional people there showing up for groups that are not meeting anymore. And just to make sure that we have 5, we can rely on having 5 people at the meetings. I need a motion to that effect.
Mr. Chairman.
Probably Cam is probably the person that would be good to move that one.
Mr. Chairman, which meeting are you talking about?
This is the council meeting. It's just past week there was a council meeting on Tuesday, and basically that was noted that we're now having difficulty getting 7 people at the meetings because we don't have that many committees meeting as more. So that in order to be consistent with the rules, Cam suggested that we should really amend the quorum rules so we have only requirement for 5 rather than 7.
That's just at council then?
Just the council, just for the council, yeah.
Thank you.
Could you want to explain it in more than that? Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Dick. The Constitution, Rothwell's Constitution, requires that in order to be amended, there must be a 2/3 of the council members must vote in favor of a motion, and then following that, if that's agreed, then there needs to be a simple majority of a congregational meeting votes the same way, votes in favor. So at present, as Dick was saying, the quorum for council meetings is 7, and we're having trouble getting 7, which means that under the rules that we set ourselves, our meetings would be illegitimate. So in order to maintain legitimacy, I'm proposing that as council has approved, or as council has agreed, that the quorum for council meetings should be reduced from 7 to 5. But we would need to have a vote of this body, simple majority, in favor of that. So I would move that the quorum for council meetings be reduced from 7 to 5. Is there a seconder?
Lynn, do we have anybody have any questions about this? If not, can I have a show of hands? Sorry, Bill, I just now's your turn. Sorry. Can you get the mic back to?
Okay, my report is on page 15. I can read it if you want, or if there's any questions. I will say I've already spoken to one person to see if they would consider coming on the trustees, and once I know that, then we'll go from there. Sorry, I can't hear you. I've already approached one person to see if that person was agreeable to coming on the trustees. As the trigger? Yes. And if I get a response on that, then I'll move forward one way or the other.
Bill, do you want to just talk about what the responsibilities and how often you meet, so that so that if anyone else here might be considering being treasurer, they know what's involved?
Good question. This year, I'm trying to remember. We haven't had it all this year. We had no actual meetings this year. No, we haven't. Pardon me?
Oh, the only thing we've done is, the only thing we've done for the Board of Trustees is when an investment comes up for maturity, we have signed paperwork, rolling it over with the interest, and we haven't really discussed changing any of that format. I'm sure we're going to probably have a meeting in the next few weeks, perhaps, and discuss the fact of Dennis leaving as the treasurer.
There are a couple issues that came up at the prior council meeting, so in the near future, I'm planning to have a meeting to discuss the things that Dennis brought up on that, at the council on that. So basically, it's to look after the money that's in the investments and that. So I would say in the next couple of weeks, we will be having a meeting, and if there's anybody that is interested in coming on the trustees as treasurer, please let me know or let any one of the trustees know, and we'll give that consideration. Now, do you want me to go over the whole report or what?
Be addressed to the chair of the trustees? If not,
I move the report be accepted. Seconder?
yeah, can we have a seconder? Al Novacek, yeah. Okay, all in favor? Thanks, Bill. Yeah,
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
thanks. The next one is the treasurer's report. Mike, yeah, get the mic. Yeah. Or you can stand up here maybe, so people can see you.
Okay, I have three items for your approval today. The first is a review of the financials for last year, 2023. Basically, as I said in my report, our income was more or less as budgeted. Our parking income collapsed, and also, we did not have our usual fundraising events, but this was more than made up by an increase in donations, which is very much appreciated. Thank you for that. And also by the special donation for the purchase of the Generac. The big difference compared with the budget of last year was our expenses were much less. The biggest part of that, of course, was the resignation of Reverend Mike Perot, and our ability to have an appointment with Reverend Jessica. So our expenses for minister's salary and for pulpit supply were much less than projected. Also, we were facing two major issues at the beginning of the year of uncertainty, and one was how to pay for the basement flood and how much it would cost to repair the damage to our original 1961 sewer line. Both of those, fortunately, the insurance company came through for the basement flood, so it cost us only $2,500, and the sewer line was also much, much less than projected. So, in fact, we finished the year with a deficit of about $1,500 instead of the projected $15,000. So, are there any questions about last year's financials? Can I have a motion then to accept the financial report for 2023? Bill? Okay. And seconder? Okay, you got those?
Joanne. Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor? Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, the second item is to appoint a reviewer. Pat Bailey has been reviewing our accounts for a few years, and although he is retiring, he's not leaving town, and he's willing to do it again next year. So I would like to nominate Pat Bailey as our reviewer for 2024. That is, he will review the accounts next spring before the annual meeting. Could I have a seconder, please? Okay. Rosemary?
Rosemary.
Okay. All those in favor, please? Okay, thank you. The third item then is the budget for the new year. It's projecting a deficit of about $9,500. The big unknown in this is when will we be getting a new minister, and where they will fit on the salary scale, and also what expenses may be involved in bringing them here. For instance, we are technically responsible for any moving costs that might be involved. So we could be looking at a smaller number, we could be looking at a bigger number than I've projected. I've sort of thrown the dart at the board and tried to come somewhere in the middle. On the income side, the trustees have paid for the installation of the backup valve this year, which means their free balance is rather reduced for the coming year, so they're not going to be able to contribute, which would normally be an important part of our income. The board has had a long discussion about fundraising, and we've pegged $2,000 as a reasonable target. We're certainly hoping that it could be better, but we're hoping to have at least 2 events this year to raise money. Rental, we're in the situation our fellow congregations have basically resumed their full activities. The Seventh-day Adventists are not, they used to, for instance, use the kitchen and cook a meal after their Saturday services. They're not doing that anymore. They're basically having people bring in sandwiches and things like that, so they're not using it as much. Our daycare has the rental for the daycare is based on their usage, number of kids in the upstairs and downstairs rooms. They have room for more. The problem is they don't have the capacity. You have probably heard this discussed in the news. They're basically unable to hire the staff that would let them take more kids. So their rental is going to be stable for the coming year. So we are looking at, as I said, a deficit of about $9,500. By the time our refund of our HST that we've paid this year comes in, we're looking probably at a decline in our cash reserves of about $4,000. Are there any questions about the budget for next year? Can I have a motion then to accept the budget? Okay, and seconded? Okay, okay, Nancy. Nancy Hebb? Okay. All those in favor, please? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think we've been through all the items that were under the Treasury report. We're looking now at the 2023 annual report. That you have been able to get a copy of, the beautifully illustrated version with the Christmas lights on the front. It's been around for a few weeks out in the front. I hope people have taken advantage of the availability and had a look at it. The big items, I think, are quite clear. What we have, we basically, I think we basically have to accept the report as written. It's obviously a composite of all the committee people who describe what various committees of the church are doing, and also the financials are in there as well. I think the most significant thing are the financials that are in the report. I need, if there's any questions on the annual report, that's basically been circulated for a while. If not, could I get basically a motion to approve the annual report? Okay. Nancy over here. And a seconder. Willis. Okay. All in favor? Great. Thank you, Anne. The next item basically was a way ahead, the plans for this year. And there's 4 or 5 different reports here, 4 anyway. I guess I could start with the chair of the selection committee. That's the committee that's looking at CVs, et cetera, for ministers, people, ordained ministers who are interested in coming to Rothwell. If I could get maybe Cam could say where they're at.
Certainly. The committee has made an offer to a minister pending review of references and completion of other arrangements. I really shouldn't say anything more at this stage because there is more work to be done, and we cannot confirm this offer until the congregation has been made aware of all the details, and that we hope will be within the next month.
The next one is the process underway in the Finance and Property Committee, or sorry, the Ministry and Personnel Committee, to choose a new office administrator. Trina is leaving. I realize I've been coming to this church for more than 40 years, and I've only ever known 2 of them. Marilyn, who was there forever, and now Trina has become the new Marilyn. And nobody has any memory of who was before Marilyn at all. No. Sorry? Okay, you can put that in the history book so we can write it down. Anyway, maybe I could ask Jan to come up and give because Jan has sort of been leading the charge in the committee on this. If she could just describe the process that they've gone into. Yeah.
No warning on this, so if it's disjointed, I'm sorry. Yes, so April the 2nd was the deadline for us to receive any resumes for this office administrator job. So I'm not sure of the total, but it's somewhere between 10 and 12 resumes that we got. And Wednesday night, we will be meeting as a committee, and we will be going over these. We should have, each member has copies, and we have read them over, and we have each picked our top 3. And we also have input from Trina. She's been extremely helpful for this whole process. So we will be having a meeting Wednesday night and hopefully contacting some people by the end of the week for some interviews that we will have. And then Trina will work with that person for 1 full week before she retires. So stay tuned.
I haven't been able to, didn't want to do too much announcing in church because Trina does watch our services. Her last Sunday is going to be the first Sunday in May, and we are providing some stuff after lunch, and we've got a gift for her, so just to let you know that first weekend in May. But I didn't want to say it in case she knows it's going to be that day, but not all the details, so.
The next item is basically the plans to improve the chancel. This is a word I never knew about. I was used to think of the front of the church, and everybody said, well, that's the front of the church. No, this is the front of the church. This is the chancel. Who knew? If that's the narthex, this is the chancel. Anyway, we've basically been trying to make it a more useful area in order that we can basically make it available for other groups to use in a more easy way. Also, we can move the piano up from where it is position it up here and also rearrange where the organ is faced and even where the way the choir is organized here. We have so far done our major job was the tear down, the home, the home show where you always get the big hammer and you hammer down usually the kitchen cupboards or something. Well, here it was the wall, the Great Wall of Rothwell that no longer stands here. You may have not seen it because it wasn't that tall, it was long. So we got rid of that. And more recently, we reinstalled the insert floor that was here originally when there was used to be a piano that was next to the organ. And now this week we basically repositioned the organ a bit so we have a better idea of where it can go. And now we need to probably build another insert to go on this side so that this level here is level, so nobody's going to fall down and break a leg and sue us for all the money that we don't have. So that's where it's at. I'm looking at my advisor on things like this, it's just Graham, and we have to figure out what we should be doing next as far as the floor and how that would be done. It's a work in progress, as I say. It depends on us actually getting the work done. And we hope to get it done in the next number of weeks anyway, that we at least know that at least the insert is, we get some plans to how we construct it. And then at some point we'll have to figure out exactly where the piano gets positioned up here, and that's the problem up here is that the loudspeakers and the micros are too close together. That's a constraint on sound in here, so that we have to basically move some of these things around so it's a better sound experience in here. Anyway, stay tuned, as they say. Yeah. And finally, there is the Kindred Works proposal. You will recall I think it was the 4th of February, the congregation, in a vote 30-10 and 4 abstentions, basically approved a request to Kindred Works that they prepare a plan for us for the proposed construction of housing in our parking lot. This is basically a request for a plan. The plan has to come back, both the actual plan, physical plan, and the financing side has to come back from them, and then we have to look at it and make a final decision. This week, unfortunately, this call didn't happen before this meeting, but we're actually going to be hopefully on a conference call with Reverend Miriam, who is the lady that was here, I think, twice, and talked about Kindred Works and what they're proposing. We will talk with her on Wednesday morning, and we get a better feel for what's happening on their side. Because I've told them we had this vote. They came back and asked us who were some of the people that were on the vote. And that's all I've heard from them. So I'm hoping we get some real information this week when we have the call. Fine, I think that's it. Is there any other business anybody would like to raise up here? Anne, please. Okay, can you need a mic? Yeah.
Making camera.
That's good.
I'd like to know if anybody knows what's going on with the committee room, because it seems like after Christmas, there's stacks of plastic.
Sorry, committee room. What
The
room are we talking
committee room
about?
used to be called the UCW room.
Storage room.
The storage room?
Yeah.
Now it seems to have become a general storage.
Well, it is a general storage. There's no UCW anymore. There's no social committee either. You might have noticed that. Yeah. So it belongs to everybody, and we have to allocate the use of it accordingly.
Yeah, well, there are 1 or 2 aisles that you can't get down anymore.
Yeah, that's what happens when it's everybody's. Yeah.
All right. In other words, nobody knows.
The thing
what
is that
the-
everything in there belongs to this church. It's none of the renters or the other churches or the daycare have anything in there. This is our room. That's our storage room that's dedicated to us. The problem is there's stuff in there that needs to go. Some of it's never going to be used by the church as currently constituted. So we absolutely have to. We've also been fitting things in like the mats for the bells and stuff because there's no storage space in the choir room for them. So it's been a challenge. And there's also stuff awaiting a good, basically a bazaar or let's say a garage sale. There's stuff that's waiting for that to be going out to the next garage sale, basically, like books, etc., that are in there. So eventually those will get out of there, hopefully sooner rather than later.
Well, John Petty does a wonderful job of doing flowers for us.
Absolutely.
And I asked him how he ever did that with where the flowers are and whatnot in that room. he says, well, he goes in and then he has to back out. So,
Well, it needs a cleanup. I'm waiting for volunteers.
okay.
We're in the process of cleaning out our basement at home. So I've cleaned out that room a couple of times now, okay? There is so much stuff in there, okay, that really needs to be out of there. And it really annoys me when people put in empty buckets. And it's the empty buckets, okay, that we're trying to get over. So I don't mind, okay, supervising it. I can't do it all physically, but we need to have a good organization, okay? A good cleanup day. Maybe that could be okay on the day. And we'll go through it once again. And guess what? It'll end up the same way as it started, unfortunately. So I give up, okay? Anyway, I know the freezer has to be defrosted. That's one thing that has to be done. I know Joyce is looking for space, okay, to put the, I mean, we got the Sunday school starting. She's doing her best, and I think we should provide a space for her. We've had some private discussions, okay, about that. And there should be places for them. Hopefully the Sunday school will grow too, you know, and we need space for her to put her things.
Well, first of all, I was just going to stop saying Marg had already cleaned out all that, and it was a lot cleaned out. I've taken some stuff out of it, and I don't know whether I'd have to talk with Brian, but I think some of our stuff in the choir room could be in the cupboard. If we, like the gowns and stuff, could be moved because we're not wearing them anymore. Don't want to get rid of them, but you know, if we could do something with that, and then your mom could put her stuff in the choir room somewhere, because the choir room's getting kind of junky looking too now. So we really have given away a lot of our space.
Well, we can always use more people to help with the clean out, because then people have to make real decisions, not just move it into another room somewhere.
Why isn't there room in the choir room for the bells now? Didn't they used to be in the choir room?
The bells there's a storage unit for them. It's more the pads, the pads that they rest on, because there's a cupboard that's built for the bells in the room there, where they can be locked.
What answer did I get?
Well, it's hard to, yeah, who's got the mic there? I can't always hear. Okay, you've got it. Just stand up and tell us what you want here. Sorry.
I want to know why we don't have rooms for the pads in the choir room. Weren't they there all along?
There was some, but I think we have enough, quite a bit of stuff that's stuffed up atop of the cabinets there, and that would probably where they should go. I didn't put out up there, but it's up there. So if we need to go through the choir room and see what stuff we can get rid of, I will join you in that one. But that's the problem, is there's no visible space there now that you can stuff those big, they're quite kind of awkward things to put away, to store anywhere.
Okay, I can't answer that one. Mark and I are offering with Marg, Marg, you said you'd be willing to sort of supervise a cleanup. Mark and I are offering some Saturday in May to come. We'll bring the kids, put us to use. And so if there's some folks here who know the stuff that's in there, because if it's up to us, we'll throw it all out. No, we wouldn't. You should see our basement. Anyway, but we're willing to come and help because we're willing to do that. So can we maybe pick a Saturday in May and do this?
I agree. I think we should do it all at the same time, if that sounds good, Dick. And
that
maybe
could be part of the cleanup.
Yeah, like we do like a cleanup outside and inside at the same time. If that sounds good. Yep. Yeah. And I'll take responsibility for the choir room. So.
Usually we have an outdoor cleanup day. That was mostly the plants and the flower beds and the lawn. But we could add to that same day this clean out exercise, quite frankly. I must say, I have most of the lights for the church, except for the ones over the front, are in my garage. And I'm actually getting a new garden shed in my garden so I can put some of those things in the garden shed, because there's no space in our shed either out here. We basically, well, any storage space you have always fills up. It's a law of nature, because nobody has to make any decisions about if you've got a place to store stuff.
Dick?
Sorry.
Did you say the bells were in that room?
Yeah, they're locked. There's a cabinet that Laverne basically constructed, and that they're stored there, and it's locked in the choir room.
Because at one time, the bells were in the storage room.
Well, they're currently
there was a nice place for them to stay in the storage room. The storage room was always locked.
Well, the choir, basically Laverne constructed a cabinet a few years ago, and the bells are locked in the cabinet in the choir room.
The choir room?
The choir room, because that's, yeah.
I thought you said they were in the...
No, I didn't say that. I said they were in the choir room. And
Sorry,
that's because that's a safer room. The thing is that door is no longer locked, because there's so many people accessing the storage room, you can't really lock the room, because you need about 10 or 15 keys for it, quite frankly.
Dick, just wondering, if we want to do, like you said, some of the stuff in the storage room should be put in a garage sale or something like that. Is that correct?
There's stuff in there now that was actually stuff that was basically storing there waiting for the next garage sale or whatever.
Sure.
And so certainly that stuff should go for the next garage sale.
Would it make sense or be overly ambitious to suggest we do a clean out one week and then a garage sale the next, or is that
whatever? Yeah.
I don't know.
I just think that there's stuff in there that should have a short life in there, because they're supposed to be for the next time we have a sale.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Any other ideas, contributions here? So have we kind of agreed that we should take this up? We should do this a collective project here to kind of do a cleansing or purging of the storage room in May at about the same time as we have the outdoor cleanup.
Dick, can I just remind you at the last council meeting this week that we are waiting to find out the date of the Beacon Hill garage sale in order to organize our own plant come garage sale,
right.
come
Do you have
whatever.
any insights on when it's going to come?
No.
Is it a May exercise?
But it's supposed to be May. We were told it was likely going to be in May.
Yeah.
So, yes, if we can schedule a cleanup day the week before, then
we have to ways at dumping this stuff on other people. That's really what we're here about. Yeah.
I have another question, please.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
How many rooms?
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh. Sorry. How many rooms does the daycare have stuff in? And pay for it?
They pay for it.
No, it was not in the original contract that I remember.
Most of their stuff is in the storage room right there off of the social room, right in there, which was made
what
bigger.
What about the chapel and the committee
Chapel?
room?
No, they don't have things in the chapel. They basically use there's one of the
library.
Well, the library is actually split into two. One is the Seventh-day Adventists use part of it, and they use part of it, and that's an active. And they also have one of their workers actually sits in that room and works from there. Their new person who does the financial items, because things have become more complicated in daycares these days, because of the money coming from the government. They use the which room? It was the old nursery, I think. That they use that as a lunchroom, but it's available for meetings when they're not there. And there's still stuff from the nursery is still in the cabinets on the wall there. But all the daycare uses it for basically is their lunch hour, basically dinner time for their staff.
Whose stuff is in the chapel?
Ours. Chapel. Yeah. I don't think there's anything permanently in there, my understanding. People sometimes go in there and use it for a meeting. Yeah, it's just ours. Yeah.
But the daycare is not paying for these extra rooms, is it?
But it's part of it's part of what they're
they're
paying us $40,000 a year, thereabouts. It depends on the enrollment. And over time, we figured out you can't run a daycare with up to 39 kids without some place to store things. And so that's why the space was used to start it over there, but they've found over time, if you're having lunch and meals, you basically need some place to store the food. And so that's what they use the old, what was it called? The old library for, is they supply, their foodstuffs are stored in there. And the Seventh-day Adventists also have the same need, is to have some place to put their stuff when they're not meeting in the church. So that's what they share the room. I said the old nursery is basically used as a lunchroom for the daycare employees, of which there are, I think, up to 10 at times. And so they have their lunch there, but the room is available for other people to use. During the evening, sometimes we've had meetings of the F&P committee, but all the nursery stuff is still sitting in the cabinets there in that room.
Yes, they do have a fridge in there. We had some, before I left as minister, we had some good conversations with daycare about creep, meaning stuff ending up here, there, and of course, that happened a lot during the time after the flood while the basement was being fixed. But we were able to have some clear conversations about where things could and couldn't be. And so I think we were able to express in a very caring way that there were limits, and that if they wanted to use more space, they needed to ask first rather than just assume it was okay. I think that'll be an ongoing, I see your arm, BJ, and I'll get Cam to go to you next. I think that'll be an ongoing thing because we all know how busy life is and people put things places, but we were very clear about, for example, I'll give you a good example. It wasn't so much about stuff, it was about bodies. I came in one day and the bookkeeper was working in the chapel, and I was waiting to meet a family to talk about a funeral. We shut that one down really quick. We made it very clear that that is a chapel. The only use for that space is church work. So that was good. That was a challenging one, but overall it's been good. But we were quite intentional. Trina, myself, Dick, and I think Al, you were part of that, about having good conversations about, and also the reminder for all of us that it's a church first. So this was some of the conversation that just, we just had to come back to it again, especially we waited until after the flood was taken care of and they were back down there to kind of sort of reassess. BJ, and then I don't know, Myrna, if you want to say anything, because I can see you thinking.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, because they do have that room beside the old library, they have it, and there's a nice big, they got a nice big space downstairs at the back of their room, because when we were looking for bell cushions, I was into all their spaces with their help. So they do have a lot of space. They don't need any more.
Everybody needs more space. Yeah. What I'm saying, that if we have renters, that puts a pressure on where do they have their stuff, where do they put their stuff, and try to reduce it down to the smallest amount of space, but they still need place to put things.
I've been listening intently, and as most of you know, I've been overseas for a long time, just come back. But I think I've lost myself somewhere in the conversation, because I don't believe the question was answered. It wasn't answered to my satisfaction anyway. How much space, when that daycare, Sugar and Spice, approached us to hold a very badly needed daycare in this area, what was the original agreement? How much space was allotted? And as they've migrated, how much has their rent increased is what I would like to know. I would love to go and sit in there with the rest of you, but I'm mindful of Kaboom. And he takes up a lot of space. I know not everyone is happy with him around food, and I agree. But I would really love to be able to join in the fellowship in a group. So I guess that's what I'm looking for. Can you please give me some details?
Okay. Basically, when they came into the church, they had a target. They're basically regulated in a way that's very strict on health and safety rules. They also have they're limited by the space. It's a funny formula of floor space and windows. And they're allowed to have upstairs, I think, 15 kids. And these are in that space, the upstairs. And downstairs they're allowed to have 24 because it's a bigger space and the kids are older down there. They have a staff ratio up here of 5-to-1. Downstairs I think it's 7 or 8-to-1, quite frankly. And they have never gone up to their maximum as far as enrollment because one of the principal problems is they can't find the staff. There's not enough good, well-trained people that they feel comfortable enough to let loose on their daycare. And it's become more complicated with the fact that now there's $10, they're moving towards $10 a day daycare, which is a huge improvement for parents, but that doesn't necessarily create any spaces because the government has been very firm. They can't raise their rates. They can't raise their rates, and at the same time, their expenses are going up. And so they're not gaining a lot from the potential parents are gaining from it, but they themselves are not gaining. They might be able to fill up their few extra spaces they've got down there. But as they've grown, as they've increased their enrollment over the years, they've figured out their main when they started out, the main room was there because that room was made bigger in order to accommodate the ventilation and heating equipment in there. And that's where a lot of their stuff's in there. We use that as well for storage of tables and things, so it's a mixed use thing. Over time, they've realized they needed a place for their staff to eat because they can't just tell them, sit in your classroom and eat, and they have a lunch break. And so we, over time, since nobody was using the nursery anymore, there was no nursery group in there at all, we started, okay, you can meet there for lunch, so that's what they have. I think they have a small fridge in there. And they basically, over time, as they are cooking more meals, they need a place to store food. And that's where and again, the library was not being used. It was empty. It was a potential meeting space, but wasn't being used. And also the Seventh-day Adventists had the same issue. They needed some place to put their stuff for their services, flowers and other things. And so they have a corner of that, and the daycare has the other part there. And now because they have more complications in their finances, the daycare, they've now put their clerk, basically, who works not full-time but part-time, in that same room because there's a nice window looking out that room. You wouldn't normally want to work in a storage room, but it is a nice room with lots of light. So that's where it is. After that, they're basically most of their storage is in the basement because that's where they are. There's no active Sunday school down there. It's not too unsurprising that they're using the space to the max, but there's still Sunday school stuff stored down there. They're waiting for a Sunday school to come back, quite frankly. And so we've been, I think, and they don't make any use of the social committee or the storage room over here used to be called the UCW room. They don't make any use of that. They basically don't make any use of the choir room. Sometimes in the summer they have proposed to have a day camp, and they would rent that space, but they haven't done that in recent years. And that's a separate operation, quite frankly. So that's where they're at. So we've been quite strict after the daycare went back to its normal situation down in the basement. That as far as possible, their staff's in the basement, their storage is in the basement, because that gets in the way the least. Thanks.
Thanks for explaining that to me. I really appreciate it. Now my final question: how much? They originally started, and I believe it was, you had mentioned 40.
They're basic
for 40,000, and you have explained, thank you very much, how they started and how they moved, and amalgamated Little Rothwell and have expanded the daycare, and I understand that. I want to know how much more we are charging the daycare for the spaces that they have moved into. How much are we charging them rent for, I'm going to call it the library space? How much more are we charging them for the additional electricity and the additional use of our appliances in the kitchen? God bless David, seriously, for keeping us going and for the congregation to support this church. However, when somebody else is in and starts to use into utilities.
Could I respond? Sorry,
Yes,
Maurice. Yeah.
thanks,
I'm
Jeff.
saying their rental agreement is based on enrollment. As they enrollment went up, they paid more for the space, and of course they use more space as the enrollment goes up, and so we basically charge them based on their enrollment, and they've never yet got to total. They've allowed to have 39 kids, I think, 25 and 14. And so they've never got there. So as they get more enrollment downstairs, as where they can, the rent goes up. But we've sort of not actually started charging them for other rooms, because they're necessarily, as you get bigger, they're being charged more for the same space, basically. And so we basically wanted to facilitate them growing and becoming a regular part of this church, and because they've become increasingly important to our bottom line here. And so I think David could probably tell you more exactly how much what it is, but it sticks in my mind. It's around 40,000. We have 40% of this church is paid for by non-givings. Give a sense of where, and that's what's going up the most. That's gone up for the other churches using it, and it's also gone up for the rentals in the parking lot. So we wouldn't be here for the daycare, to be quite blunt about it. If we didn't have the daycare, we would not be operating. The church had been handed back to the mother house in Toronto. That's the reality.
The underlying question behind all these questions is people are uncomfortable with what they see as somebody else taking over the church. And people in other churches have commented that they've become a daycare with a chapel attached. And I understand people's feelings about this, and the need, as Reverend Jessica has pointed out, of setting limits. To talk specifically to BJ's points, one is the daycare last year provided about $49,000 out of our total income of $225,000. If they were to reach their maximum capacity under the current arrangements, their rent would be roughly $52,000 to $54,000. We, for a number of years, have participated in an organization called Greening Sacred Spaces. One of the things that this group does is benchmark not only greenhouse gas emissions, but energy use, because energy use is the first and biggest target for reducing greenhouse gas emissions. One of the results that is shown from the benchmarking is that, in fact, our energy use that the biggest positive thing that we have done to reduce our energy use was the renovation to make it possible for the daycare to come here. The installation of the 2 hot air furnaces, the renovation of the boilers to put in modern controls and so on. Our energy intensity, that is the amount of energy we use for the size of the building, the amount of time that it's used, has actually fallen about 25% since that work was done. In terms of heating and cooling, we are at the 75th percentile in terms of efficiency, that there is realistically not a lot that we could do without massive investments. So in effect, that work that was done for the daycare has actually benefited us in savings. Electricity is not as clear, but there are big issues there in terms of replacing the lights, replacing the ceiling fans and so on, which have been targeted as probably the biggest benefits for savings. But yes, We did set out to try and figure out, so has our utility, how much of our utility costs gone up because of additional daycare use? It's not as clear as we thought it would be, and it's not as bad as we thought it might be, because in fact we have had some benefits from this. So I can't really answer your question about should we be asking more because they're using these rooms? We've had discussions, several meetings with the daycare, and they've outlined their situation, and basically they are not able to pay more. I think that's an established fact. Do we need to do something about reassuring people that this is still a church and not a daycare with a chapel attached? Yes, we need to do something about that. And as Reverend Jessica has pointed out, we've started that. We need to continue it.
Just two things. I realize that it's a bit of annoyance that we can't use the social hall as full space, but it's a lot of work to move all that stuff back and to move it all back so it's available for them on Monday morning. Because so we only do it when we need to have to do it. If people want to have more space, we would be happier if people would spread themselves out here. We'd put chairs and tables here. Otherwise, some of us have to do all that work, pushing back and putting it back and putting it in the right space. So if people could accept, as they did in olden days, they used to not just stand in there, they used to sit in the pews and have the chit-chat here. It was all sorts of people. That's how we used to do it. So if we set up chairs here, and we could probably facilitate coffee being in the front of the church. And also, yeah, same as we've done. And we also still have some potential to move some of the pews out, quite frankly, in the front to create more space. You may not realize that Reverend Mike's plan was basically to create enough space here to replace what we can't easily use over there. That was really the plan. And so if we could continue that plan, then we would create more space, useful space in the front of the church here. Also, all the money for the ventilation and stuff to get the daycare in here was a donation. Cent didn't come out of our money at all. So it was a donation. So basically, we've gained from that, and we've gained from the efficiency of the church.
I'd like to just return the topic quickly to the old UCW room. And you said, Dick, that the storage is only used by us, so I'm wondering why we can't have a lock put on the door. I've been advocating for that for years. Even before the pandemic, items that were donated to the bazaar were stolen.
Yeah. It doesn't belong to any one group in the church. That's the thing. With UCW not existing, social committee disbanding, there's a number of people.
You said it. Only our stuff is there. So
well, I'm
why
saying
can't
United
we have
Church, the congregation
a
stuff.
lock on it?
I'm saying a number of people have stuff in there now that belong to the congregation, but they don't belong to UCW. Doesn't exist. Social doesn't exist. So it's basically. But you need everybody using it would have to have a key then.
Well, there can't be that many people who need access.
And people know where the key is to get into the office if you need to get into the office. So what if we did the same thing?
Because there are so many groups coming through the church. I don't want to accuse anybody, but all you need is one person, and many items for the last big bazaar we had were stolen. So I'd like to avoid that.
So we can basically lock it and keep the key over where all their keys are. A high-tech system of keys in the box in the corner up in the mailbox there. Don't
put that in the minutes, Phil.
No, don't put it in. So people might want to steal the old stuff in the storage room. You never know. Is there any more interventions here for anybody? We'll basically have one, and there's a key around somewhere. We just haven't locked it because it gets in the way of access to a number of people who have stuff in there. So we can put a key up where we can tell you where it's going to be, and they can go to it. But I don't know the people are using it, quite frankly, because it doesn't belong to the UCW, it doesn't belong to the social committee. It's used by a number of people.
So did we all
locked, so in theory, there's a key around for it. Maybe the social committee's got it, or the UCW still got it. I don't know. Just that I've not ever had the room's always been open in the last few years, so it hasn't been an issue for me. Okay, are we finished? Any other things to be said? I think that was my closing remarks, quite frankly. I think I appreciate so many people turning out for this, and all the work that people do in the church. A lot of it not ever, no public praise is made, but it really, we can't operate without you. And the more that we have committees that are operational, it helps to share the load of the church, quite frankly. And there's still some committees to be resuscitated. Let's say there's a few outreach committees that we could easily, be nice to have again. Other than that, I can't think of anything else. Other than I hope you turn up for these cleanup days in May and other events in May, quite frankly, because that will help the whole process here. There is a couple. They used to be the outreach to the people who are shut-ins, that sort of thing, and there was more active visitation, pastoral care. But I think some of the other committees, even having a social committee would be useful, just as a core people to actually organize things like events. So you don't have to, every time you organize something, you don't have to go around and try to form a little group of people to organize it. If there was just a core group that was willing to participate in events, then you could actually go to them and use them as the core for the organization of the event. This time now, everybody has to do it, has a new group every time we have something. Anyway. Time to go.
Willis is giving us the signal. So how about I close us in prayer? Wow. God, it is amazing, this community of faith. It's amazing their long-time faithfulness and commitment, even in the face of change and uncertainty. Lord, I give you thanks, and we give you thanks for the faithfulness here in this place, here in this part of your world, in the path of totality. Loving God, please bless each one of us as we go out into our day, faithful servants of you. Amen.
That was a nice dance around the bush.